Baltimore's police commissioner wants to get the gun-toting knuckleheads off the street, lock them up. Today we take aim at violence. It's time now to square off. Here it is, Sunday morning, 9:30. Hi, everybody. I'm Richard Scher. Welcome to another edition of Square Off, brought to you by the Murphy Firm, one of the great law firms in our country. And today, we're taking aim at a very serious topic. If you read Friday morning's Morning Sun, the front cover story about the concerns of people in this community, the number one concern in our community is crime and the violence. And do we have a panel for you? Let's meet them now. Baltimore City Police Commissioner Frederick Bielfeld III, who's been a city cop for more than 28 years. Good to have you with us today, sir.
Morning.
Now the brilliant trauma surgeon who treats victims of violence every day. In fact, he had 3 shootings within minutes on Wednesday, 2 on Thursday morning, 1 on Thursday nights, and even 1 on Friday morning. Please welcome Dr. Thomas Scalea, physician-in-chief at the world-famous R. Adams Cowley Shock Trauma Center, University of Maryland Medical Center. And Kimberly Armstrong, whose 16-year-old son, Eric Valines, was murdered in 2004. That murder still unsolved, and who's working to make sure her son did not die in vain. And Anthony McCarthy, the former chief of staff to Baltimore Mayor Sheila Dixon and talk show host on WEAA-FM 88.9 on your FM dial. Let's begin with Kimberly and tell us, if you will, what happened to Eric on that day.
Well, to my understanding, he was on a corner. I live in Bella Edison, and the only information that I know that he was standing outside with a group of his friends. A car came along and just started shooting, and he ran. And I got a phone call while I was at the store that he had been shot, and by the time I had gotten home, he was laying on someone's porch in the alley, fighting for his life in 2004.
And what's the progress on the case? Commissioner, have you looked this up?
Yes, I have taken a look at it, and this case happened, unfortunately, and again, I'm sorry for the death of your son. Happened in 2004, Richard, and this case really isn't too dissimilar from a lot of, unfortunately, a lot of other cases that we've experienced in the city, where this is a local case where we believe the suspects are local, the problem was local, and we don't get much cooperation in these cases.
Sorry about this, Kim, and of course you and I have done a bunch of stories, and we'll find out about what you're doing about this to turn it into positive. The Commissioner and citizens of Baltimore, murders in our city right now are up 3%. Shootings are down 22%. Violent crime overall is down 7%. Commissioner, who are these so-called knuckleheads? And what the heck are they doing out on our streets?
Well, you know, I don't think that Baltimore is too dissimilar from some of the other urban centers along the East Coast, with Philadelphia and D.C. being very much experiencing the same problems we do. And one of the central problems is the manner in which young men in this city resolve conflict. And the availability of handguns is jet fuel on top of that. And so that minor disputes get mitigated or resolved at the point of a cheap 9mm or a 25 semi-automatic is too common in our city. And really the answer for me, beyond targeted enforcement and all the other things that we try to do, we really, if we focus on one issue in this city in terms of law enforcement, and other folks are going to comment about what they think should be done, but we need to put people with guns, when we catch people with guns, they need to do jail time.
Right, exactly. Like the guy who was charged with shooting that 5-year-old girl, had all these convictions before that. And what's a punk like that, or a gentleman like that, doing out on the street? If you got to get hurt, if you have to get hurt in this city, there's no better place to do it than at the University of Maryland R. Adams Cowley Shock Trauma Center. And one of the main reasons is a gentleman sitting here on my left, Dr. Thomas Scalea, who once said in the past, if you're injured and land on my roof, you've got a 98% chance of living. And you see this stuff every day. I mean, you've got a case coming up later today. What is this all about, sir?
It's an epidemic. I'm with the commissioner. This is about conflict resolution. the violence is getting worse, in my opinion. It's not getting substantially better. The guns on the street are more deadly, and it is every day. It's every day for us.
Well, I think that I agree with both the commissioner and the doctor, but I think that there are partnerships that can be formed with the police department and these communities. We know where this violence is taking place. We know, for the most part, who's doing it. What we need is a stepped-up effort to conflict resolution, but also police officers that know how to police in these communities that they don't seem to have a connection with.
I think there's a bigger issue. We keep talking about having so many guns in our community, but we're not talking about how these guns get in the community. I don't know a 12, 14, 15, or a 21-year-old who can bring these type of guns into our community. How is that happening? Nobody's really looking at the bigger picture.
Well, I think that these communities are targeted, not just because of drugs, not just because of poverty, but they're targeted because it's a benefit to a lot of people who make a lot of money off of young black kids selling drugs to make sure they're armed with guns and make sure the police are off their backs.
Right, but yet our answer is to keep locking them up. We cannot keep just locking people up. No. We can't just keep putting up different legislation to enforce different laws that come into place to keep locking people up. There's many statistics that already show that locking people up does not deter crime.
Now, I will say this, and then Commissioner, so far this year you have seized 2,000, the Baltimore City Police Department, 2,060 guns. But I've been to press conferences down there where you line the halls with guns. When you get rid of those guns, there are more guns. Well, answer this.
Well, here's what I'd say. Look, the fact of the matter is, and the facts bear this out, last year in 2008, we set a record in the city, for a record low for the number of murders. And we reduced non-fatal shootings. And we're on pace this year, 2009, to have the lowest combined number of non-fatal shootings and homicides in the last 8 years, easily. But here's really the deal. I think that we talk about the relationships of the police. The fact of the matter is there's a marvelous book by Elijah Anderson called Code of the Street. If you've read that book, you really understand the root cause. The fact of the matter is, in a lot of neighborhoods, Richard, people, young men, people in communities have lost faith in the criminal justice system to resolve their conflicts. And so they essentially feel like they're on their own.
Right.
And so we do need, in my lane, I do need to reestablish bonds and figure out ways for the police to connect in communities.
But the big driver here still is drugs, and there is the psychosocial problems that go along with it. But if you look at the time when there was the big pop in inner city violence with high velocity weapons, it's when crack cocaine came to the United States. It was in the late 1980s and the early 1990s, and that problem is still here. It's around the issue of poverty, but it's about the drugs.
Back in a moment, our discussion of violence as we continue Square Up. 25-year-old son and an 11-year-old daughter who was 11 on Saturday. He was 11 on Saturday. Excellent. Hey, I just wanted to say for just a moment that since I left the other station and since the beginning of February, I volunteer every week at the TRU, the Trauma Resuscitation Unit, at the University of Maryland Shock Trauma Center, the R. Adams Cowley Center. And I can tell you that it is probably the most rewarding thing, an activity I've ever had. I've never seen a more devoted, a more dedicated group of folks. And like Dr. Scalea said, if you have to get hurt, this is a place to do it. Because I've never seen, honestly, Dr. Scalea, I've never seen a more dedicated group who were so focused on saving these people's lives. And trust me, when somebody is not able to be saved or somebody is very sick and the families come up, they're the most compassionate group. How did you train these? I mean, how did this happen?
I'd like to take credit for it, but the culture was there when I got there 12 and a half years ago. I'd like to think that I've been helpful in kind of gathering people together and moving the whole project forward. But it takes a special person to want to do that for a living. And if you're not that kind of person, you don't last very long. You have to be willing to put it all on the line, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You have to leave your problems home and bring your A game every time you walk in the door. I'm I'm there a fair bit of time, and so I'd like to think that I'm helpful in getting people to get to that place.
All right, back to the violence, and it's great to have you here. Anthony, what were you going to say about the communities and so forth?
Well, I think that the statistics are wonderful, and I think that the commissioner should be commended for his leadership in bringing violence down in the city statistically. But if you go into some neighborhoods in the city of Baltimore, they will tell you the perception is that their community is more violent than ever. And it's not just drugs. I will tell you, there seems like there's been this generational split, and the young people who are on the streets today, although they may be involved in the drug trade, there is a culture of violence that is absolutely acceptable. And then you throw in cops who are disrespectful, who are aggressive. That's right, some. And certainly we have outstanding police department. But there are officers who throw fuel on this fire. And there's got to be a way, there's got to be a serious dialogue about how we bring the police into partnership with these neighborhoods.
But you know, it seems like we keep putting the blame back on the children. A lot of these kids are dealing with major issues that nobody's really addressing.
So let's blame their parents.
We can blame a whole lot of people. I mean, we can blame society. You can blame a whole lot of people, but that's not the point. The point of it is that, like this doctor said about the conflict resolution. I mean, now when kids get into fight, our solution is to suspend them or lock them up and send them down to the Department of Juvenile Services. That's not resolving the issue.
Well, how would you resolve the issue?
They need to have some type of what he was just talking about, conflict resolution or some type of mediation in school.
But they don't talk about things. They shoot each other and they fight.
Well, if you live in hell and chaos, all you know is hell and chaos. So
then how do you change that? How do you get them to even talk about mediation?
Kids spend the majority of their time where? In school. So it has to be, so we have to do something, different. Most kids do
Most of the kids in my neighborhood are sitting on the corner or applying their trade. So they're not in class to get mediation training.
Have you ever been into a Baltimore City school and you see the way it's run? I have too, and I wouldn't want to go to school if the school looked like jail. The halls are dingy.
So how do we get to the solution then? If young people aren't in the classroom to be taught, how we can't, I can't get their attention. You know who's getting their attention? Officers who scare them and drug dealers who give them money.
And gangbangers. And the thing is, this comes down to, you touched on it with the doctor, you touched on it with Anthony, and you touched on it with Kimberly. The deal here is leadership. Adult leadership.
Well, where are they?
That's a good question, because when all of us have served on panels, you've done countless interviews at crime scenes, and who you see are the same cast of characters. We need leadership from the community, and not just the head of the NACP or the ACLU or city council people. We need people in communities to lead and talk to kids about trash and graffiti
you do some of that.
Yes,
burning
I do
dogs.
a lot of it.
Who's out there in the media? You see, again, the mayor's talking about don't burn dogs. Where are the people in that community who say don't torture animals? Where are people who say don't throw trash or vandalize your neighbor's property or firebomb that lady's house? Where's the adult leadership?
There are some things that can be done, and we've done some of them. And you have to build it as a total program. But we have the violence intervention program. It's based at our shop. And frankly,
what is that?
It's a system where you provide, in this case, repeat victims of violence, a social structure that provides them vocational training. It provides them family counseling. It tries to address the root causes, and we've shown a statistically significant decrease in the amount of repeat violence. It's cheaper to spend the money that way than it is to lock somebody up or to try to repair the damage 5 years, 10 years, 15 years.
I think statistically you probably do see a significant decline, but you're reaching a very small group of people. I think that as much as we have this flood of violence in our city, these kind of programs are wonderful, but I think we need to get back to this idea that the commissioner mentioned, leadership. Men in these communities are refusing to stand up because they don't want to challenge their children. Too many women in these communities are receiving benefits from their children standing on the corner getting drug dollars.
And
that pays their BG&E, it pays their rent, and so nobody's willing to stand up.
And it goes back to poverty once again. It goes back to not knowing how to resolve issues other than violence.
But I was poor. I didn't turn to drugs. My family was poor. We didn't turn to drugs.
We'll be back in a moment.
You were fortunate and blessed.
What does that mean? What?
And they had to say, we are not taking this crap anymore.
Okay, you say the community has to say we're not taking this crap anymore, Kimberly.
That's right.
What do you mean? Who's going to say that to these guys on the street with these guns who have no regard for human life?
Well, that's where we can develop a partnership with the police department so they can have our backs because, I mean, I'm just different. I'm not afraid of them, first of all, and that's what the part of the problem is because
a lot of those folks are scared of people in uniforms. They're terrified. We have an arrest record. We have an arrest rate in this city that is astronomical. Beats cities that are 2 times our size. They are terrified not only of confronting the young people on the street. They're terrified to partner with the police department. I wish I had a chance to talk to your officers when they were cadets, and they would not just get the perception of the older veteran officers. They get the perception that there is a community that they have to be invested in. And when you're invested in a community, you're willing to police that community.
And that's why one of the central tenets of our public safety strategy is community engagement. And we drill it and drill it. But it's not just rhetoric. We train to that now. And we partner and do things with kids at Outward Bound and seniors. And we do a lot more in training from the very beginning.
But that's going to take some time, because that needs to permeate through the entire staff, and it's a wonderful start, but it's not going to solve the problem tomorrow.
Most of the kids who need to be dealt with are not going outward bounds. First of all, they are straight up hoods and just gun toting, what we want to call, what we want to know.
But you know what, name calling is never good.
Exactly.
I mean, how many people saw that clip of our commissioner calling young people knuckleheads and reacted?
My point is that the young people that we need to get to are not going to outward bound. I'm sorry. You know, they are posted on somebody's corner, and we had.
I think they are, because here's the deal. You say yourself one of your lines, and I won't take it from you. What's your line?
My line is it's easier to build children than it is to repair adults.
I think that's right. And where we're trying to focus is at the beginning, 6 to 12. And we're engineering all sorts of strategies, Doc, to try to engage there. Because I don't think that I can conflict resolve with a 16-year-old with a 25 semi-automatic. I think that kid, we're going to have to arrest that kid.
Why?
But I think the kids at the beginning of this...
him actually going to jail and staying in jail.
That's the problem.
But that's not something I can control. That's not a part I can control. But I can control the targeting, because you're not wrong. We need to focus. We're doing this even this year, Anthony, by making fewer arrests in the city. We made fewer this year than we did last and the year before.
You talked about consequences, Commissioner. I think you're so on the point. When someone is arrested 2, 3, 4 times and they're never charged or they're let go or they're dealed out, they're getting the message.
Something has to be done.
My strategy is working. The police department strategy is not working. The mayor's strategy is not working. This is what they're thinking, because I've been arrested 3 times and I've been let go.
There's no consequence.
You've been arrested 3 times?
No, not me.
I mean, we're
just twice.
But you see,
we're going to put the cuffs on him.
The kids that we see are often all about that. They're proud they've been shot. They've been shot more than once.
Where does that come from?
I don't know, but I can tell you it's very real, and it's funny because they're really tough until they get badly hurt, and then they're just kids again.
Right.
But does your program address that? People who are proud of being shot. I mean, does your program change their
I've seen
mind?
guys that shot drama who said, look, I got shot here. And, oh, by the way, a year ago I was shot here. I've been shot 5 times, and he smiles.
You've been shot 5 times?
I have not been shot. I have not been shot 5 times.
I think the issue is just bigger than that, because if you have a child who think it's honorable to be shot, it's something wrong with that.
Absolutely.
That's what we need to be addressing and getting to. You do not come out of your mother's womb saying, I want to be a thug, I want to be a hood, and I want to be shot.
But nowadays you do. Nowadays you do. These young people come out of the womb to join the Bloods of the Crips and take a strap.
We'll be back.
It is a learned behavior.
Well, they're learning from the wrong. Well, they will.
If she were alive, she'd say, how dare you use me as a reason not to do something.
We are back on Square Off. I just wanted to say that our panel on violence, we've agreed now, we're going to do this every 2 or 3 months. We're going to see what's going on. The same group of people, and you'll have an opportunity to see them again. Let's read some of your emails. Here's an email from Barry, who says, I enjoyed last Sunday's show. Great to have Square Off back. And from Mary, On President Obama's Nobel Peace Prize, the U.S. was on its way to the Great Depression, she says. No, President Obama is not Jesus Christ, nor can he walk on water. But for one human being, give him his props. We want your emails, please, and we're going to be giving prizes if we read your emails. Tell you about that in a few weeks. Send them right now to squareoff@WMAR.com. Let us know what you thought of this show on violence and make some suggestions. Now, on a lighter note, here is Baltimore City Police Commissioner Fred Bielfeld, as you've never seen him before. Hold your ears.
I'm every woman. It's all in me. Anything you want done, baby.
Commissioner, you got to be careful. Commissioner, what's this all about? Tell us why we look at this horrible. My dog. What is this, Commissioner?
I was actually paying off a bet for McGruff. You see him, he can't speak for himself, so.
Now, what, you lost a bet to the women in the department?
Yeah, to the mayor's office. To the mayor's office, they had a marathon relay team, and we lost. And so part of the bet was I would sing karaoke on 98 Rock. That's a very weak attempt at it.
All right. Hey, thank you, Dr. Scalea. Anthony, thank you so much, Kimberly and Commissioner. I want to remind you that this week, before you meet the press or face the nation, join us again next Sunday at 9:30 when once again we square off. Next Sunday, a new panelist, former Lieutenant Governor Kathleen Kennedy Townsend, will join our panel. Now let's look for more solutions to this problem. Why are people just have a disregard for human life? What is that?
I think that because a lot of things have been desensitized, we have children now who just have no feeling, no compassion, no substance.